Okay, so here we are with the Seascape. I have actually stitched most of it. I've used some yellows and grey, green, cream threads through it, all in different spots, and I'm now going to do a little bit of blue work for my waves and stuff. I'm just going to lift this little, see if you get a better angle. That might be better. Right. So I just got pale blue in here, and I'm just going to go with the flow. Still can't find my tweezers. Really need them, as you can see. Ah, there we go. Tend to go round stuff, but I also sometimes do a little bit of pattern work in them. Just depends on the picture itself, really, and what's going to suit the picture. Backgrounds and things. Just lost my thread. Backgrounds, I quite like to do, especially if it's a blocked background, I like to do a bit of meandering round. Just something to give it a little bit more texture sometimes. I have to declare every time I do this, I am no sewing expert. It's my least skilled area by a long shot. I have fairly limited knowledge of what this machine is capable of, in all honesty. Because this is all I do with it. I just use it like a pencil, really. Drawing the lines on. It's not the most exciting of videos, I have to say, watching people, especially me, attempt to sew. I'm using an old thread, and it's obviously just a little bit on the vintage side. A bit weak in spots. but because literally all of my pictures go to be framed, they're either stretched over the canvas or some people put them under glass. I'm not relying on my stitching to hold anything together, which, you know, is just as well. Let's be honest. This is not working well. I think I'm going to give up on that thread. Obviously doesn't want to work for me. So just find something else. Hold on a sec, I'll be back. Right, we'll go with this instead. Sorry while I bang about trying to thread the needle up again. Right, let's see where we got. So I'm going to do this sort of shoreline bit next. Actually, I'm going to change my bobbin as well. Right. Here we go again. Where am I going to start? Start right back here, I think. Right, nearly there. Let's go do a bit over here. Just make sure that the edge is going to be nice and secure. Going for a sort of a tatty edge type effect. I think we're kind of there. So let me just see if I can give you a better picture of the whole thing. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll iron it and then I'll put it on at the end. Oh, I've just spotted I've got some cliff bits just to do up here, so I'll just change the colour, then give it an iron, then show you how it kind of looks. Alright? Okay, so for some reason or other the sound didn't come out when I was recording this part of the video, so I'm going to dub over the top of it and hope that it doesn't sound too weird, and just try and remember what I was doing. So I'm taking, this is the board that I actually made the collage on, so I'm taking that off the parchment paper and the pattern that I use, so you can see the pattern was just on the top of the board. And the board is the one that I'm going to use to put the collage back onto. Right, so I've given the collage a really good iron. I'm going to do a bit more ironing, but you can see the blue area has still got fusible on. So when I iron it, I need to iron it onto a parchment paper, because otherwise it's going to stick to everything that I put it on. The blue part is going to go round the edge of the frame, and then I'm going to iron it onto the frame. That's how I do it. So I just put the batting in the middle of the picture that is going to sit on the top, and then leave the sides just with fusible on. So you can see here I put a piece of parchment paper under my collage so it doesn't stick to the base of whatever I'm doing it on, and a piece of parchment paper over the top of it, mostly to keep it clean. Because no matter how often you clean your iron, it still gets in a bit of a state still. I've already given this quite a good iron down, so I didn't need to do very much. So here's my board. It's just a box canvas. I just need to obviously peel it back off of the parchment paper again where it may have stuck around the edges. There we go. And I'm just going to centre it on the board as best I can. Because I made it on the board, I know that all my edges are going to go over and not show up on the top. I don't mind having a little bit of the blue round the edge, but all of the colour flows over the sides. That's the main thing. I like to put the single sheet of blue on because it makes it a much neater job, especially around the corners, so it's not quite so bulky. So just straighten it all up, getting it centralised, holding onto it really tight and then turning it over. Then we're on to stapling, so a staple from the middle first. Bit cat-handed. And staple the middle again on the other side, pulling it nice and tight. And then I'm going to do all four sides exactly the same. Now I was going to staple that, but I didn't leave very much fabric on that side, so I went over to the other side first, and then I can pull it as tight as I possibly can on the side where I haven't got a huge amount of fabric. I know it's in the right place because I centralised it all before we started, so it's just a matter of not quite putting it on quite wide enough. So I just carry on going through the middle. Each side, a bit of tape, each side the same. So 2 in that side, so it's going to be 2 in this side. Working my way towards the corners. Pulling it as tight as I can. bit bumping in the camera, I'm afraid. It's every time the staple gun goes off. Right, so just check that I've got it where I want it to be, because there's nothing worse than stapling it all down and then finding it's slightly off kilter. Quite happy with that, and you can see the sides how they are. And now what I'm doing is I'm putting a bit of parchment paper over the top of my sides, and I'm going to iron my sides down a bit to make them nice and straight and flat. And because that blue doesn't have the batting on, it's still fusible and it will fuse to the frame of the picture, and it just creates a really nice sharp edge. I'm not going quite into the corners because obviously I've still got to sort the corners out. Corners are always the hardest part, but you can kind of see how it's starting. I'll still do some more on it, but you can see how it's starting to make a really nice sharp edge on there. Not the easiest thing to film, mind you. Just running the iron down it just so that it's sort of partially there, so when I get onto the corners it's in the right sort of position. Okay, so we're now onto the corners. Corners are a bit of a mystery to all of us, I think. So what I tend to do these days is make sure I haven't got too much bulky fabric in the corners. Then I cut down, not quite to the front, if you see what I mean, the front of the picture, but I cut down there, and then I tuck it one side, tuck down the other side, if you see what I mean, and then I fold over that edge that's going to be on the outside. I'll fold it over so there's not a raw edge on there. See, I'm just folding it over a little bit more there, pulling it as tight as I can, and then stapling down. Putting a couple of staples in there probably, yep. Just securing everything down, and you can see it's already quite a sharp corner, and then I'm just gonna iron it even flatter. Particularly using the parchment paper around the edges, because the iron is likely to leave some nice little marks on there if you try and do it without parchment paper. Then iron the top down, and in all those little gaps where the staples are, I just go round and seal it all down, all the way round. So you can kind of see how that makes quite a nice sharp edge. So I think I do one more corner to show you. So again, just cut down, not right to the bottom, tuck that in so that it's going to go under. There you go. I think I cut a bit more off of it because I didn't need all that much, so I cut it again, cut a bit off, then tuck it back round. Then fold that edge over so that it's not a raw edge anymore, and it's at a slight angle away from the corner. There you go, and then stable it down. And then those, you quite often when you iron it, you'll lose any kind of wrinkling as well, because it irons it nice and flat. And just adding any more staples as you need. You'll find you'll need quite a few. You do need quite a few staples because you don't want any puckering. It needs to be nice and tight. Then I'm just going around ironing it all flat. In between all my staples and everything. And there you go, just showing you how nice a corner it is, even though it's got a bit of thread hanging down there. And then I think what I do is I go on to do the other corners, and then we're going to come back just finding extra bits of thread. No matter how many times you cut the bits of thread off, you'll always find more. But you can kind of see how it's come together. So there we go, there's the whole thing. All the corners have been done. Everything's nice and sharp. The edges are nice and sharp. No puckering going on. Just showing you the stitching as well that I put on there. Quite a lot of stitching on this one, just going with the flow really of the shape of the sand and the waves. It's quite challenging as a small piece. As a bigger piece I think it would be much easier. It was fun to do though, something a bit different. There we go, and that is actually ready to go on the wall. So thanks very much, and we'll see you for another adventure soon.